Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. We've got you covered. Traditional leagues, dynasty league, PPR league, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
Welcome into the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Emmet Wyman, back for a week 11 edition of NFL football fantasy talk, man. And, you know, I always say the show, man, you guys are probably just, you want to skip the first few minutes by now because I just ran. But, I mean, the season is flying, all right? Weren't we doing a Halloween show yesterday, guys? I literally remember coming on here yesterday, doing a Halloween show, talking about the girls in the costumes and just shooting the crap. All right, being funny about it yesterday. And am I mistaken that after this week, Thanksgiving is here? The best holiday in the world, Thanksgiving, is here already? Guys, Christmas is tomorrow. All right? Get your hats out. Get your presents out. I mean, playoffs are here. Really. Well, they're actually not here yet. I mean, now I'm going a little bit too ahead of myself. But, I mean, you guys get what I'm trying to say. The fact that September 1 was yesterday, Halloween was 2 hours ago, and we're doing this podcast today should just tell you how fast time is moving. I mean, it's moving faster than it ever has before. And, you know, that sounds kind of like it's coming something from some movie where there's a time warp or some shit. But I'm being serious, guys. Like, the time moves fast. All right? This whole 7 days a week, I mean, it's like 1 day a week. There's only 52 weeks in a year, but it feels like there's 4. I mean, maybe it's my life. Maybe it's just my life, and I'm just sitting watching too much football, trying to get you guys these good players. But I mean, that's just me. All right, time's moving way too fast, but it's moving fast. What that means, man, is you guys don't have time to play around. All right, you don't got time to, waste on people that don't really care about you. You don't got time to waste on bad fantasy football trades. I'm trying to find a way to bring it on back to fantasy, because at the end of the day, this is a fantasy show. But listen, let's get into it, guys. You guys know the weekly Saturday show. We got picks. We got optimal lineup that I'm looking at right now in the third segment. We'll get to the rankings in the final segment, give you the top 10 each position. Next segment, we'll get into starts and sits, which will take up the whole show. And right now, how about we recap that Thursday night game, which was, a good game. I'm not going to lie, it was a good game. I had a lot of entertaining action watching that game. Granted, Kyler Murray was pretty banged up. I'm just going to get that off my chest right now. And I know it sounds like it's an excuse. Oh, you're just saying that because Kyler Murray didn't really play well. Well, I mean, he didn't play great. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you about that. But, I mean, if you saw I think it was pretty early on in the game when they were showing him on the sideline. I mean, he had the heating pad on his shoulder almost every time he went to the sideline. So clearly he wasn't 100%. And then you saw on some of his throws where they literally looked like routine. It was like routine ground outs to first, and he couldn't even make those throws like he usually does. That one to Hopkins on like 3rd and short. I mean, even Hopkins looked at him like, "What the hell are you doing? Like this is like the guys from the Space Jam come and get you." I'm thinking of the Monstars. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of something. I don't know. I forget what they're called, but you guys know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. When they go and take Mike's powers away, and they become the best basketball player, and Mike becomes a scrub. But I mean, that's literally what Kyler Murray looked like. He didn't look like himself. Rushing, he wasn't really doing much because I think he was so focused on just, we got to complete, we got to get Hopkins the ball, we got to get this guy the ball. Seattle's defense is so bad. So I think he really wanted to beat him with his arm, but it just wasn't going to work out considering, he wasn't in the best of shape. With, Seattle side, first of all, who's defensive coordinator? I forget who D coordinator is for the Cardinals. I was going to say Steve Wilkes, but I think that's not him. He's their old head coach. I think it's who it is? It's that Broncos coach, Joseph. It's him. What the hell is he thinking putting Peterson on DK Metcalf? I mean, are you out of your freaking mind? That's not even close to coming to like a favorable matchup. I mean, that's like that's a complete mismatch. I mean, Patrick Peterson in 2012, you put him on DK, that'd be a hell of a matchup. But I mean, Peterson's speed compared to what Metcalf is doing on just a 40-yard dash. I mean, my God, there's got to be a huge separation. I mean, and then later on in the game, Pat Peterson was so damn scared of the go ball that he was just playing 5 yards back and jumping every time DK was going deep, and then DK would just do a double move, and he would fall down on the turf. I mean, he was making him look silly. I mean, that's just incredible. But I don't know where to go from here if you're Arizona on defense, because I think that's going to be a big problem for the Cardinals going forward. We knew they were going to have some problems when they lost Chandler Jones, just to the fact that he brings a pass rushing element to that defense that they don't really have. They have Hassan Riddick, who was a first-round pick a while ago, but of course, like many other Steve Keim first-round picks, he's kind of blah. And it's just, the defense is just not good. I mean, their D-line, they were putting practice squad guys out there. I don't know who the hell the Seahawks center was. Who was that guy at center? That kid Lewis with, he had the dreadlocks. Where the hell did they get him? I mean, they need to get a new center, because they were making that D tackle for the Cardinals look like Calais Campbell. I mean, I don't know. Seriously, I don't know where they got them, but it's still, just one player is not going to be enough for the Cardinals. They got to have a lot better. I say they got to force turnovers, number one. They got to have just a better attacking mindset on defense. Their players aren't that talented defensively. Offensively, I definitely think they got the talent. Their O-line looks like it's coming in. I mean, Seattle was really sending the house a lot. I mean, that call, oh my God. I mean, just being a Kyler Murray fantasy owner, I was obviously favoring the Cardinals. But seeing that holding call, I mean, that is ridiculous. I mean, that holding, the rules is, if he's holding in the end zone, it's a safety. Not holding at the one and then coming into the end zone. But obviously, I'm not a ref, so I guess I don't know crap. And they call that kind of threw the whole Cardinals game plan off, because it looked like they were going to come march down if it weren't for that penalty. And then it was I think it was either a holding or something, or no, it was a grounding. And when he was barely inside the pocket, his foot was like on the outside of the hash, and they called it a grounding. But I mean, look, you're going to get bad calls that way. It's just the way fantasy works. You can get mad and start a podcast like me and just start ranting and raving at everybody and telling everybody how bad they are, which is fun. Don't get me wrong. Why do you think I'm on here, guys? But look, I'm not. When I say this, I'm not really trying to be. It may sound negative. It may sound like I'm upset. It may sound like I'm just a horrible person, and everything's going bad around me. And look, that's the case at times. But for football, I mean, I'm just giving it to you real. I mean, that's just giving you what I think. I don't really care whether you think it's negative, positive, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to be these guys on what you can call it. The ESPN shows going happy-go-lucky me for every player. That's just not the truth. So, anyway, I guess, what else I had to say? I was just saying on Seattle's side, that I guess to wrap up that game, it was a good win for them at the end of the day because they really needed it. They were sputtering bad. That Rams game was embarrassing. We talked about that on the recap show last Tuesday, how they just they wanted that game badly and they didn't get it, so they had to get this game versus the Cardinals. And looking at it, I probably should have put money on Seattle, knowing that that was a big case for them. But I think going forward for both teams, I mean, Kyler Murray's got to get healthy, which I think he will. He'll have a little bit extra time to ice up that shoulder. And they got to get back to, going 30 points a game because that's what the Cardinals have to do. They're not going to win putting up 21 points a game. Their defense ain't good enough. Seattle, same thing. I mean, they got to put up 28, 30 points a game. And that's what they did. If Kyler Murray were healthy and they didn't get those bullcrap calls, Cardinals still would have probably put up 30. But just sometimes the way the ball rolls, I guess, is a good way to put it. Man, I'm trying to think. Oh, one more story, and then we'll go into starts and sits. This story had me dying the whole week. I can't even read it because I'm laughing. But New York Giants, man, New York Giants. These guys, they can't stay out of the headline, man. They're like the Cowboys. Even when they win, they'll find something silly to do, and it'll just get back to the headlines. But listen, this ain't as bad as it seems. So New York Giants head coach decided to fire my boy, my man, a Cowboy, Mark Colombo, offensive line coach, Tuesday. And literally right after I submitted the podcast and I put it out, the news broke. And that kind of, I was like, oh man, I wish I talked about that. So glad I'm mentioning it now. But so he fired Mark Colombo after there were some discrepancies in recent weeks between him, Colombo, and just the offense in general. There was reports. So they brought in David. I forget his name. He's a long time offensive line coach, consultant, etc. He's been in the league forever. I think he was with Gettleman with the Panthers, so they all have familiarity with him. But it says there were some discrepancies in recent weeks with the offensive line. Judge was actually involved more with coaching the offensive line in recent weeks, despite the poor play, which is why maybe you saw the past 2 weeks the Giants actually, get back to running the football. Because, the Giants were bad. They're really, I think that was a big factor of why they were so bad on offense the first 5-6 weeks. They couldn't run the football. Once Barkley went down, they they were basically relying on Barkley to make up for their crappy offensive line, which he's so talented that he could do sometimes, but it's not going to work for his teams like the Steelers, of course. But anyway, you look at that, and you look at Andrew Thomas, which I think is, that was a big time. He was a 4th overall pick for the Giants, and he wasn't playing well. He wasn't playing well at all. He was getting blocked, or he was getting his ass on pancaked by DNs. He has no speed, so they were going around him pretty easily. Going forward for Thomas, though, it's not saying that he's a bust at all. He's definitely has talent. You're not going to go 4 overall without talent. And he started like 50-something games at Georgia, so you're obviously a really good player if that's the case. But the development with him early on was horrible, and it looks like him and just the unit in general has been a lot better the recent weeks, especially versus the Eagles. They were pounding the rock. They were pounding the rock versus the Eagles with Wayne Gallman. Wayne fucking Gallman. When has he been anything? He's been on that team for like 6 years. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but he's been on that team forever, and he's always been a backup. Always. Granted, a lot of it was Barkley, but even when I think he was there before Barkley, and he still wasn't getting burned. Maybe I'm wrong, but as a Giant fan. it's just they tried so many different things. They brought in Devontae Freeman, which, I mean, I was telling them, what the heck are they doing? The moment they did, I think they realized that, you know, he really doesn't have any more juice in him. And so basically they part with Colombo. Colombo was irate with the decision. I think Colombo heard the speculations that they were going to bring in the David. Now it's bugging me. I got to look his name up after this segment, but that he heard rumors that the offensive line coach was going to come in. And you know, when there's rumors about somebody coming in to help you with your job, that's not nobody's going to be happy with that. That basically is like a note, a side, what's a shade, like a shade at you for not executing your job to the best. Which, you know, I guess that's the case for Colombo. And you know, he fired back at Judge. The funniest part of the report, though, was seeing one guy. This guy had to be kidding. He said that they got into a fist fight. Now, guys, if Joe Judge actually tried to punch Mark Colombo, who played offensive tackle in the league, and looked like, I mean, Mark could still play right now. I mean, obviously he's like almost 10 years removed from the league, but just his size, he looks like an old lineman still. So, I mean, I knew, I kind of wanted it to be true just to laugh at it, but I knew deep down inside, like, man, this cannot be true. There's no way. Because if Joe Judge really swung at Mark Colombo would probably put his ass in the hospital. All right, and I'm just being real. Like, that's a what's a bigger mismatch? Let's do a poll. Give me a bigger mismatch: DK Metcalf versus Pat Peterson, or Mark Colombo versus Joe Judge in a fist fight. I'm gonna have to say Colombo, but the other DK is a pretty big mismatch as well. I guess going forward though for the Giants, Jason Garrett, man, you know, I think this is really going to start. He's going to get a lot of fingers pointed at him. I think, you know, Jason Garrett's trying to get that offense to where it's run first. I think Barkley was going to really be a huge part of that, and you know, not having him really killed it. And then you look at the offensive line; it's still, I mean, it's getting better at least. I think because the techniques that they're teaching them are more to what Joe wants. Because you guys got to understand, the Cowboys' system of offense, what they've been, I mean, which is basically the same thing. I mean, Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator. It's the same offense as Jason Garrett. That system of offense is way different, and I mean way different, fundamentally, technique-wise, than the Patriots. It's way different. The way they punch, the way, I mean, pull everything. I'm telling you, everything. It's different, all right? And I'm going to tell you right now, if the offense doesn't continue to improve, Jason Garrett's going to be out of a job. Because the truth is, as good, quote-unquote, as Danny Dimes might be, he's not Tony Romo. Okay? He's not Dak. He can't cover up Jason Garrett's mistakes. He can't audible at the line of scrimmage. I mean, Romo was literally... Jason Garrett would call a play to Romo. Romo would say, yeah, we're not running that play. Screw that. I see the mic right here. I see him blitzing. I see him blitzing on the other end. We're going to change the play, do this, and I want you cutting inside. Dez, go deep. All right, ready, break. Here we go, set, go, and it happens just like that. All right, that's special. Danny Dimes can't do that, and he's only 2 years in the league, so there's no way he has knowledge like that. Dak couldn't do that exactly what Romo did, but Dak is great in other ways. And it's starting. Dak now, he could actually do a little bit of that, but it's nowhere close to Danny Dimes. And you know, the point I'm trying to make is, as good of a coach that I think Jason Garrett is, even as a head coach, and I know I'm going to take a lot of flack for that. I mean, great. He's not the best play design. He's not the best. I mean, I think he's a good play caller. I mean, I thought he was a good play caller when he was with the Cowboys. He didn't call plays much because I think he was worried about a bunch of other stuff. But overall, I think he brings some good tendencies. But he needs to have a good quarterback for his system to work. I'm just telling you right now. And I guess every offensive coordinator could say that. But I'm telling you, it's not like Kyle Shanahan where you could just sub in Nick Mullins and the train goes on. It's not happening like that. So, I think his future is looking pretty glim, if I got to sum it up. So, good news for you Giants fans that are sick to death of him. Problem is, you're probably going to be stuck with Danny Dimes for another year or two. So, Giants still ain't going to win. But at least you could say, if you're a Giants fan, at least you could say, at 3-7, we're getting better. And they're not good, okay? I'll be the first to tell you, they ain't good. And I think Giants fans know that too. But they're getting better. The Eagles are not getting better. Okay, the Cowboys look like they're getting better, but they haven't resulted in a win. So I can't really say that they're getting better. It looks like it, but it didn't really start off and they grew. Like the Giants start off at 0 and they grew to 50. The Cowboys started off at like 50, went down to 10, and now they're back at 30. The Eagles have started at like 0 and went to negative 10. And the Redskins are just pure irrelevant. So at least if you're the Giants, you could say we've improved more than any other team in our division, and we have a freaking shot at the playoffs. The playoffs. Believe it or not, that's the craziest thing ever. But I mean, if the Giants make the playoffs, oh my God, I can't even think about it. Let's get to a break. We'll be right back with Starts and Sits, guys.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back. GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Let's get into some starts and sits. Before we even get into it, I guess we'll talk about the one player that's outstanding from the rest of the pack, and I just don't know what the heck to do with him. I don't know what his projection is. I don't know how you project this guy, and that's Taysom Hill. So report is coming out yesterday, Friday, that he's going to get the start. 100%. He'll get the start. Which makes sense. I don't know. There's another report saying that Jameis Winston's not going to be involved in any packages. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why. I mean, I guess just go roll with those two guys. I mean, my assumption was that they were going to use Winston as their main guy, but Taysom was going to take plenty of wild cards. I can't even say it. Wildcat snaps. Wildcat. Check the paw prints. Wildcat offense with Taysom, and they were going to use him like they always do. Try to get. I don't know why they do. I don't know why they use him as a freaking tight end. That makes no sense. They use him for like 2 plays as a receiver, and they call him a tight end on fantasy. I don't know. I still don't get that aspect of it, but I guess they're giving him the ball in receiving. They're letting him carry the ball in read option. He can make some throws every now and then in some of his plays, but he rarely does. But you look at the money behind it. I think he got a 2-year. I think it was a 2-year, $20 million extension or 2-year, $15 million extension, where they're paying him what? 17 or no, they're paying him like 7-8 mil a year. So I mean, that would be a pretty expensive, utility player, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, I could just draft. I don't know why Sean Payton just doesn't go draft the next Taysom Hill. The guy's 30 years old. I mean, it's not like he's lightning or he's, I guess he's super athletic and he's got some nice durability, but I just don't get the specialness behind him. Maybe he thinks he's going to be a great quarterback one day. I don't know. You never know what Sean Payton's up to, but he always likes to think that he has like this bag of tricks or this, secret that he's keeping from the rest of the league that nobody else knows. I don't know why, but just the way it is. But anyway, I guess since we're in the quarterback talk, let's try to project Taysom Hill. I mean, I don't know is he a top 10 quarterback if you had to play him as a quarterback? Yeah. In season-long leagues, he's eligible as a tight end, and he's eligible as flex. So if you're projecting him 17 points and he's going to be a quarterback, I mean, you have to start him, right? You have to start him. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if he's a quarterback and he's going to throw the ball 20 times a game or something like that, he's going to run the ball on read option, and maybe he catches passes too, you have to start that guy. As much as I hate on him, as much as I say I don't understand what they're doing, you have to start him because he's going to get the volume. He's going to get. The volume is going to be ridiculous. That's the only reason. I mean, he's literally the only player in fantasy history to throw, run, and catch the ball. I think. I mean, maybe I'm missing a guy like a Terrell Pryor or something like that, but he's got to be the only player in fantasy history that could throw, catch, and run the ball. I don't know. I guess if season-long leagues, if you picked him up off waivers, maybe put him as a flex. If you don't have a tight end, put him as your tight end. He's a perfect tight end play for this week, even though he's not a tight end. I wonder if they're going to delete that. I have to assume they're going to delete that. I mean, they're just going to have to list him as a quarterback because that's just going to be too broken for teams. If he's literally throwing the ball 30 times and you have him as a fucking tight end. The only tight end in NFL history to throw the ball 30 times. And the guy's not even built like a tight end. He's built like a linebacker, which is, I guess similar, but he's a little bit skinnier than your average tight end. We'll see, though. That's just my thoughts on him. Because I think he's just different than all the other players. I don't know, because he's listed at multiple positions. But let's get into the rest of the starts for quarterbacks. I mean, obvious Kyler Murray, I had him at number 1. Other guys, Justin Herbert and Ben Roethlisberger are obvious starts with some horrible matchups they had. Pat Mahomes is an obvious start. Russell Wilson was an obvious start. And honestly, aside from those guys, I really don't like anybody else. I should say, Kirk Cousins this week playing the Cowboys just because the matchup is really good. He's going to have Jefferson open on some plays, which would be nice for him. So he can air the ball out. I don't know where they're going to go, though. I don't know if they're going to really try to run. That'd be my guess. They're just going to run the ball 30 times with Dalvin Cook, 10 times with Alexander Madison, and just keep it going and going and going. But I have to think that Kirk's going to throw for 2, maybe 3 touchdowns versus defense. Because while this defense is improving, let's be real, guys, it's still not good. Let's go to sits, though. Sit down Teddy Two Gloves. Even though he's starting, I'm not really a big fan of Teddy Two Gloves this week. I think they're going to come in versus the Lions and just really, really run the football every play. Every play they're going to run the ball. The Lions, they can't take the run game. I mean, they literally stacked all 11 guys, even the safeties, down in the box, and they were having some trouble with the Redskins. And the Redskins they're going to tell you they're running the football just by sending Alex Smith out there. So the fact that they had a little bit of trouble containing that, I think, Carolina's going to present a new challenge for them. So we'll get to backs later, but I'm going to sit down Teddy Two Gloves. I'm also going to sit down Stafford as well as we're on that same note. I mean, Stafford's also I think he has a hand injury. Something with either his finger or his thumb. I don't know. It's a little hand injury, but it's probably going to get in the way, so I would just sit down, avoid him if you can. Sit down Joe Burrow this week, guys. Joe Burrow really, I mean, look, he's a really intriguing fantasy player, maybe a good backup, but, this week I think the Bengals O-line is a big matchup for the Redskins D-line, and I know Washington's got, I said before how their D-line isn't, the 1985 Bears like it should be on paper, but I think the Bengals are they can't contain these guys. I think Joe Burrow's going to get hit a lot, and I'd wear 2 life vests for if you're going to the game. I think that's it though for sits. I can't really think of anybody else. Maybe consider actually one more sit. Sit down Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is I think he's regressing, honestly. I really think he's regressing. I mean, he just hasn't looked the same since what game was it? The Steeler game. I mean, he's coming down. I think Taylor Lewan, the left tackle, going down really killed him, but he just don't look the same as he was playing early on. So I'd look elsewhere. Even though I was liking Tannehill as a backup early on in the season, I'm kind of regretting that going forward. Let's go to backs now. Obvious starts at running back: Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Josh Jacobs, all excellent starts. Carlos Hyde was a guy I really wanted to start. I guess Carlos Hyde is just, he's 30 years old. He's not attractive. He's been on 20 bad teams and hasn't done anything. So it's kind of like an ugly start, but I'm telling you guys, running backs in Seattle get high volume and a high octane offense, and they're actually good players. Remember what I said about DJ Dallas, how DJ Dallas, if he's going to be the starter, pick him up because he's going to be good. What do you know? DJ Dallas is getting you 15 points a game. And then Carlos Hyde actually had 15 points last night. So I guess, man, just keep riding out with those Seattle backs if you got them, because they produce points. I mean, I know they're kind of a committee backfield too. They had Travis Homer hurt as well. So anytime you got, unless you have Carson's the main guy, but anytime there's 2 guys missing for Seattle out of that backfield, pick up a running back off waivers and start them. Whoever they got, whether it be Hyde, Dallas, whoever. So let's get into some other starts for this week. Mike Davis. This is what I was talking about with Bridgewater. Mike Davis is going to carry the show this week for Carolina. I'm pretty confident saying that there's a good chance that he'll have 100 yards. Good chance he scores a touchdown, which is over 15 points right there. And I don't think Detroit's going to be able to stop him. I honestly think Matt Rule's going to come into this game and just say, let's play power, just like they did with the Cardinals. Just play power and keep going and going and going until they win the game. So I'm really liking Mike Davis. Miles Sanders, he's going to be a start this week, even though the Eagles' offense is so bad. He's the only one that's consistently producing, so I guess you have to take him. Aaron Jones, James Conner, you have to start those guys, obviously. Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson's really just turning into one of my favorite fantasy players. 13 carries for 45 yards last week. Really not spectacular, but 2 touchdowns. He's had 4 touchdowns in the past 3 games. Look, guys, if you're not going to get yards, at least get touchdowns and produce, and that's what Antonio Gibson's doing. Basically carrying the offense now that Alex Smith is just checking down to him and JD every play. So he's doing his thing, making plays, and he's getting carries in the end zone, which is important, guys. If you're getting touchdowns with your backs, those are guys that you definitely want to hold on to. Let's go to some sits for this week. I'm going to sit down the Ravens running backs, Dobbins, Edwards, Ingram. Just sit them all down. I think the Ravens, their offensive line really isn't all that. Losing Ronnie Stanley, the left tackle, really killed them. Orlando Brown's a good player, but he's not a left tackle. He's a right tackle. So I think that whole shift kind of threw off the chemistry of that entire line. And they're not the same line like they were last year. And I think that's really a big factor in the decline of that entire offense. Rams running backs, I'm going to sit down. So Darrell Henderson, Cam Akers, all of them. You can sit them all down. Tampa, I think, is going to come to play, especially on the defensive end. And I don't expect them to let the Rams get going on the ground game. Nyheim Hines. I mean, look, I know Nyheim Hines had a great game last week, guys, but I'm telling you right now, Frank Reich rotates the back. So maybe this is a John Taylor game. Is John Taylor a start? I mean, the matchup says yes, but the volume says no. So I'm going to have to lean towards on John Taylor. Maybe a flex at best, because they're not really utilizing him as much as I want them to. As far as, Wilkins, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with him. I just would sit down the entire Colts and Ravens backfield. Le'Veon Bell, I know he was getting consideration for the starting gig this week with Clyde Edwards-Helaire going down, or not going down, but having an illness. I mean, that's not going to happen. I mean, you guys just cut Le'Veon Bell if you have him. You should have cut him already, but cut him if you do. And I think that's really it for just notable sit-downs. I'm not like a sit-down Melvin Gordon. Obviously, I'm not liking him. I know he's had some numbers recently, but I'm not really buying into it. Rex Burkhead, I'm not really buying into him either. You can sit him down. Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard, you can sit them both down. Joe Mixon, I think he's not even going to play anyway because he's hurt. Giovanni Bernard, I wouldn't bother starting just because he's hurt. And that's really all I can think of, guys, for sit down. So let's go on to receivers. Obviously, big receiver that I had was Hopkins. He already played. Didn't give him the ball a lot, which is kind of weird, to be honest with you. I thought they were going to really get him 10 receptions, 100 yards, a touchdown, but it didn't happen. Just one of those games. Tyreek Hill, obvious start. I mean, Tyreek Hill's going to get like 5 touchdowns on the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to be in for a challenge. Julio Jones. I think, is obvious start as well versus Saints. He has a really good track record versus Saints. They have a hard time covering him. Devontae Adams, obvious start. Keenan Allen versus the Jets. That's a great start. Keenan Allen, man, I told you guys a few weeks ago, try to get him in a trade if you can, just because the matchups are really good for the Chargers, what they got going forward. Having the Jets this week, they had the Lions, the Broncos. These were easy matchups. So anytime you got a good receiver or a good player in general, getting a schedule of 5, 6, 7 easy matchups straight for him. But probably too late now because I think everybody else caught on to it. Kenny Golladay, I watched the injury status with him, but I think he's a start versus Carolina. Deontay Johnson. I'm really liking Deontay Johnson, guys. I'm really liking him. I think he's honestly the most talented receiver on the Steelers, period, out of everybody. Better than Claypool, better than Juju. There's just a little different juice to his game that he brings, and that I think separates him from the rest. I think Big Ben sees it too, which is why he's getting over 10 targets a game and really just pounding them out. But we'll see where they go going forward. I'm really liking Deontay, though. So I think Deontay's turning into maybe a must-start every single week. Terry McLaurin. Guys, even though the Redskins quarterback is so bad, you cannot sit down McLaurin, man. McLaurin is a machine. This guy over and over and over again. He's so consistent. He brings his A game every game, and he's so reliable. There's just no one else I'd rather really have starting. And just for, and I mean that as in like a mid-range receiver that was drafted, 5th, 6th round. There's nobody else I'd rather have than him. Not all the receivers, if you know what I mean. So let's go to some sits. Guys, don't bother with Antonio Brown. I said that before. Maybe stash him, but it's going to take a while before Brady and Brown get on the same page. Antonio hasn't played a game in a while, so it's not like he's going to come in and be what he was with the Steelers. I said that before. DJ Chark, maybe he has a good game. Maybe this is the game he comes out and has like 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I don't see it this week. I think Jacksonville's going to be in trouble with the Pittsburgh Steelers and their pass rush. DJ Moore. I know DJ Moore had a good game last game, but I'm going to sit him down as well. Just because of Bridgewater status, and I don't think it's going to happen twice in a row. I think it was a good matchup for him versus the Bucs, but I think it's going to be a little bit different this time. Marvin Jones sit down, even though I know Golladay. It looks like Golladay. He had some questions, but he's going to play. Golladay, I'm pretty confident he's going to play. And if Galladay's playing, you could just scrap Marvin Jones, guys. Even though Marvin Jones has been having good numbers recently, I doubt it continues. Travis Fulgham. I know we've been liking him a lot, but I'm going to sit him down this week just because I got to see. I mean, the Eagles got to win this game, or else you can just forget about it. So I got to see it to believe it with them. Marquise Brown, I'm going to sit him down. Ravens passing attack is weak as crap. I'm not liking it at all. And then I'm also going to, my last sit down the Rams receivers. I don't think they're going to do, I don't know. I just think the Bucs are going to come out and just smack them. That's my guess. I just think they'll come out, smack them, put them to bed, hit Jared Goff in the mouth, and nobody on that team's going to do anything. I could be completely wrong, though. So let's go. Let's finish up tight ends here. Obvious starts at tight end. Kelsey. I mean, he's a 10 out of 10, number one start. Darren Waller. I mean, again, start him every week, even though Waller's been kind of blah recently. He's kind of touchdown dependent. I mean, I guess we could say touchdown dependent for all tight ends. Joe New's the same way. Kelsey's the same way, for crying out loud. Mark Andrews is the same way. It's just the thing with tight ends. So I guess actually, if we're going to consider Taysom Hill a tight end, he's probably the number one tight end of the week. I mean, you're going to throw Travis Kelce's not throwing the ball 30 times. Darren Waller's not going to get any quarterback snaps. I'll tell you that right now. So I guess I have to start Taysom Hill. Other guys I like, Hawkinson. I mean, you guys know me and Hawkinson, man. Hawkinson's an every week starter. Mark Andrews, I think he'll get back on track versus Tennessee. This is a good matchup for him. Hunter Henry versus the Jets, another really good matchup. And then finally, Logan Thomas. I know we've been saying, don't pick up bumps from the Redskins. They stink. It's Redskins, man. Nobody. I'll tell you what, Alex Smith is going to do two things. He's throwing to that check down on the running back, or he's checking down on his tight end. So I think versus a team like the Bengals, good opportunity for Logan Thomas to produce. Guys to sit down. I'm going to sit down Mike Gesicki. I'm done with him. I know Tua's there. He's doing well, but Mike Gesicki just hasn't been doing well at all. Numbers have been horrible. Robert Funyon, I'm done with him. You can give up on him. Jonnu Smith, I'm going to sit down this week. I'm not giving up on him, but I'm going to sit him down just due to the fact that the Ravens are going to be completely centered around stopping him and Derrick Henry. And I think they're going to make Tannehill beat them with his arm. Jared Cook, he's kind of interesting just due to the fact that I would say start him if he had Breeze, but now with Taysom Hill, I'm actually leaning more towards sitting him down. And then I'm also going to sit down Noah Fant. And Noah Fant, I think, is just another guy who's victim of a terrible quarterback that's just costing him points. Before we go to break, guys, I guess we'll do one defensive pick, and then we'll get into the optimal lineup and lock of the week and all that stuff. If they're out there, I guess my main defense this week, I'm going Miami. Just because I'm going to start fading Denver, and I don't believe in Drew Lock. I don't care about him. And if it's Brett Rypien, I don't think it's going to be Brett Rypien. But if it is, my God, that's a blowout. But Drew Lock is, I don't know what else to say. I just don't think he's all that. I guess some good streaming defenses. You can stream the Minnesota Vikings if they're there. Who knows how well Dallas is going to do, but I'll bet against Dallas. But pick up the guys, go Washington again. I just think the Washington's defensive line is a complete mismatch for the Bengals, and I think Joe Burrow is going to get hit a lot. So 3-4 sacks, that's 4 points for you. Hopefully they don't give up 30. But let's take a break, guys. I'll be right back. We'll get into lock of the week, optimal lineup, take a chance on me. And then, we'll get into the rankings in the final segment. So stay tuned.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Let's get into DFS betting segment. We're going to go through an optimal lineup for DraftKings FanDuel lineups this week. All standard scoring, of course, or PPR scoring, I should say. And then we'll get into the lock of the week and then take a chance on me, the one player you could pick up that might help your team next week before everybody tries to get him. Okay, so let's break it down for good matchups this week. I don't think Taysom Hill is considered a tight end in DFS, so I think that's only just season-long ESPN league. So I think he's still listed as a quarterback. Do I take a shot at him at quarterback? As a quarterback, probably not. Just due to the fact that I don't know what I'm going to get with him throwing the ball. As good as he is as a runner, I mean, he's not Cam Newton. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. I'd rather look elsewhere for other safe options. Pat Mahomes versus the Raiders. I mean, obviously Pat Mahomes is the most expensive quarterback, but I mean, I'm really confident. I'm extremely confident that Kansas City Chiefs are just going to blow the doors off of the Raiders. They're going to blow the doors off the Raiders, especially after the Raiders kind of got at them the first time and beat them. I think they're going to want to come back and get even. Justin Herbert versus the Jets is probably going to be the pick for this week's quarterback. You guys know me. I like going with the sure thing at quarterback. I got away from that last week when I picked Jared Goff. Even though Jared Goff was facing one of the worst defenses, he still didn't produce, which is, I mean, that was such a stupid pick by me. I don't know why I picked Jared Goff. I was trying to be cheap, I guess, and just go expensive at other positions. But we all know Jared Goff stinks. I mean, let's be honest. You don't even need to watch 2 minutes to know he stinks. But it is what it is. So this week we'll go Herbert versus the Jets, even though I think the Jets are more of a team that you could just do whatever you want, run on them, throw on them. I guess running on them would be more effective because they're not that strong up front, but I think they could take advantage of them through the air as well. This seems like a 3-4 touchdown game for Justin Herbert, so I'll take him this week. Running backs, I really liked. I was also liking, aside from Carlos Hyde, I should have mentioned Chase Edmonds, excuse me. Although he only got 2 yards, he had a touchdown, but he only got 2 yards, so really wasn't all that great of a pick. I'm thinking of going cheap at receiver, cheap at tight end, and going expensive at running back and quarterback this week. So for running back, I'm going to say Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a great matchup. Dalvin Cook is extremely expensive, but I'm like, he's got to be the number one fantasy player this week. I mean, he's guaranteed 25 carries versus the Cowboys, and I'm pretty sure we can guarantee the 100 yards. But, considering this is DFS, everybody and their mom's going to be playing Dalvin Cook. So let's try to look for somebody else. Honestly, I might just do the two backs in the Sunday night, Edwards and Jacobs, and just, lay the dough with them, and then try to find some cheap options at receiver. So I think we can go with Edwards, Jacobs, and then heck, if you want to go even cheap, go really cheap, go pick up Alexander Madison, because he's extremely cheap. He's only what, 3,000, because he's a backup still. So I think there's going to be a chance that, you know, if Dalvin Cook's doing well, they'll just sub him out, get Alexander Madison in there, and get him going for 50, 60 yards. Maybe he gets a score as well. So just some things to consider. So we'll go Edwards and Jacobs as our main backs. Receivers, so obviously we want to go cheap here. Justin Jefferson and Deontay are my really... I mean, Jefferson actually isn't that cheap anymore. Deontay is actually not that bad price. I mean, he's $5,000. That's not too bad. I would pick him up this week versus the Jags, even though I think they're going to run the ball a lot versus Jacksonville. Deontay, like I said, man, he's the most talented receiver on that receiving core, period. Jefferson's another guy I really like. So if you want to put Madison in, take out one of the expensive running backs and go with Jefferson, I'm completely fine with that. McLaurin, I like him a lot, but McLaurin's starting to get a little bit more expensive as well. So all the good players are starting to get expensive because the sleepers are kind of like dead in the sense that it's just not. There really isn't any sleepers, is what I should say. I don't know. I'm probably going to have to do I'm probably just going to have to go Madison and then Jefferson and Deontay as my receivers. Tight ends, guys, let's go with Logan Thomas at tight end this week, just due to the fact that I think he's going to get a ton of targets. Alex Smith is really, really, really limited. I can't say he's bad, but I guess that's the case. It's horrible because he's had a horrible injury, and the Washington football team continues to just throw him out to the Wolves and expects him to do all the legwork. It's just not happening. So I don't really understand why they're so caught up on not playing Dwayne Haskins. I mean, I guess that just shows why or how bad Dwayne Haskins is. But I don't know. I'm gonna go with Logan Thomas this week. If you want to go running back, Mike Davis, another good sub, but he's actually too expensive. I keep forgetting. The odds makers are now understanding who's really good and who's not. They understand this league. They caught up, is my point. They caught up with everything. So I'm going to have to go. I guess we're going to have to do a final lineup. Let's go with Herbert at quarterback, Logan Thomas at tight end. Our two receivers are going to be Jefferson, Deontay. Running back, we can go Clyde Edwards, Alexander Madison, Jacobs. And defense, let's just go Washington because there's no way there's any more money left. So, but if you guys need another, I guess look up some cheap substitutes. I think because the running backs are going to be too expensive. So look up some cheap substitutes aside from Madison. Maybe J.D. McSuckett. Maybe. Bernard just gives me a headache, man. I don't think I can ever do him. So that's going to be the lineup for DFS. Let's get into lock of the week. Couple games I really like for lock of the week. How about the Falcons getting 5 versus Taysom Hill at quarterback from New Orleans? Now, I know a lot of people kind of just took a break from the Falcons just due to the fact that, hey, whatever, the Falcons they're sputtering, they're losing, they're not really doing much. They fired their coach, they're a dead team. Well, to be honest with you, they've actually gotten better since they fired the coach. They've won some games. They're playing better defensively. I think their coverage is a little bit better or actually a lot better than it was, week 1, 2, 3. Offensively, I think they're still the same, which is good. Their offense is fine. Julio's healthy, so as long as Julio, Ridley, and Matty Ice are healthy, I think the offense will be just fine. To get +5. Considering no Drew Brees, man, I think that's a pretty good value. So I'd have to consider that big time. The game that's really, really eyeballing to me, that I just don't know. I don't know if I can pull the trigger on it, just because it sounds too ridiculous. But you guys are going to laugh at me. What about the Jacksonville? I mean, I know you guys. Oh, you're like, what? Yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars plus 10.5 versus Steelers at home. Now, look, obviously Jacksonville's a bad team. Obviously the Steelers are a great team. Why do this bet? Everybody's going to be on Steelers. Everybody. It's the obvious pick. 8-0 Steelers, garbage-ass Jags, who haven't won since week 1. I mean, it's just, like, this is a total mismatch, right? On paper, everything points towards Jacksonville. Or everything points towards Pittsburgh, excuse me. But when you look at the games, the Steelers have been getting a little bit close. I mean, the Bengals, they blew them out, but that's the Bengals. The Cowboys were getting a little bit closer on them. The Eagles got close on them. So the Steelers are going to be due for a loss. I mean, it's only a matter of time. Do they lose to Jacksonville outright? Nobody can see that, right? But I'm not going to. I don't know if I could really do it, to be honest with you. But the Steelers do have a game on Thanksgiving. So it's just a consideration to the fact that, maybe they go in there, they win by 3, they win by 7, and they get out of there. They're not going to run the score up because they got another game to worry about. And I think it's first the Ravens. I mean, they got the Ravens again. I mean, the Ravens are no joke. The Jaguars are a joke. So they might overlook Jacksonville and go to Baltimore or be focused on Baltimore on Thursday. But who knows? I definitely think this is a really interesting spot for the Jags. And, that quarterback ain't been too bad. I mean, Jake the Snake, I mean, the guy was slinging the ball last week versus Green Bay. I mean, granted, Green Bay's defense ain't that good, but I think, considering the fact that he's actually made the offense look a little bit better than Minshew is something to consider. But I'm really liking the Jaguars plus the 10. That's a pretty good lock, just because I think the Steelers are going to take them lightly. But if you guys don't bet the Jaguars, let's try to look for another bet. Vikings minus 7 is obviously appealing versus Dallas. I mean, we just don't know what we're going to get from Andy Dalton. That kind of considers me. New England Patriots on the money line versus Texans is really interesting. I mean, the Texans are just a downfall team, but they also have the better quarterback, so could be dicey at the same time. Might want to stay away from that. Looking at some other games, Green Bay Packers getting +1 versus Indianapolis. That's interesting to me. Aaron Rodgers is way better than Phillip Rivers. So the fact that you're getting points with him is, something you might want to consider. Chiefs minus 8 is just like, it's too obvious almost, right? I just think it's too obvious. I really think they're going to blow out. Here's the lock of the week. We're not even going to think about it anymore. We're doing a teaser. Get your teasers out. We're teasing Chiefs. They're at -8 right now. We're going to get them down to -1 on a 7-point teaser. And then take the Jaguars and get them up to 17.5. That'll probably be -140 juice. Lay it, man. Who cares? But, guys, I don't think the Steelers are going to blow out Jacksonville. And if the Steelers actually do blow out Jacksonville by 30, then I'm going to look like the dumbest person in the world. But, hey, you got to take your shots every once in a while. So I'm going to do it here. Maybe if the Jaguars get an upset, then I'm going to look pretty smart. So I'll take my shot. We'll get the Jaguars plus 17.5 for some insurance and parlay it with the Chiefs -1. And the Chiefs that's a guaranteed win. Not a cover, but a win. So a little bit different. Let's finish up here, though. Take a chance on me. Take a chance on me. Take a chance on me. I didn't get the music queued up, so that's all you guys get this week. But take a chance on me. This is it's gonna make me throw up saying this, but Zach Ertz is gonna be this week's take a chance on me. He's still designated on injured reserve. He's dropped in over 65% of leagues. I mean, look, if Zach Ertz is healthy when he comes back, because he never really looked healthy. I mean, granted, Ertz's numbers have been absolutely horrible this year. He's been a guy I've actually recommend dropping. But now that nobody's, you can get him for absolutely free, if he's there, guys, pick him up as your backup tight end because there's a good shot when he comes back. He's going to get a lot of targets in that offense. Carson Wentz loves him as a target. That's his favorite target, as a matter of fact. They have no receivers. Granted, the Eagles' offense is porous, but look, if they're gonna be that bad versus the Giants, I mean, it can't get any worse, right? So we'll see. But, I mean, look, Zach Ertz, if he's going to get 10 targets a game for a backup tight end that you're getting for free, take a chance on him, guys. I'm trying to put my bias aside when I say this, man, but, I mean, I just don't see why that's not a good free agency pickup. The fact that you can get him for free makes him valuable. I definitely wasn't a guy that was saying trade Ertz. I was actually saying trade away him. But he's free. He's sitting there. Maybe this is a bounce back half of the season for Zach Ertz. We'll see. But that's all I got, guys, for those. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Get into weekly rankings coming up.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Let's wrap up the show here with some weekly rankings. Top 10 players each position here, and you guys already know the... I'm running out of gas, man. I said you guys already know the drill. We're already an hour in, I think. Yeah, we're already an hour in. So usually when that hour mark hits, it's basically, that's kind of where the tank starts to get empty. But the information is still there, guys. It's just a matter of me speaking it out to the microphone sitting in front of me. But don't worry. Anyway, let's start off. Quarterbacks. So number 1, I had Kyler Murray. We'll go 10 up, obviously, but I just wanted to put that out there. Obviously, Kyler Murray was pretty blah on Thursday night, but we already discussed that. I think a lot of it had to do with the injury. You saw him not make those crazy routine plays that he usually makes, so we'll see how it is. But anyway, so number 10, I'm going to go with Rodgers. Rodgers I would put higher, but the truth is the defense for Colts is really good, and they're favored at home, so we don't know what we're going to get from this game. This game is going to be entertaining to watch. I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm going to have to put Rodgers a little bit lower this week. Number 9, I'm going to put Lamar Jackson. Even though Lamar Jackson's playing Tennessee, man, I mean, that offense has just been bad to where I can't even put Lamar in the top 5 anymore, which is crazy to say. If you used a first-round pick on Lamar, you're a dummy, but I don't know, man. I'm going to put him at 9 just because that offense is bad. Number 8, Taysom Hill. I'm going to put Taysom Hill at number 8. I'm putting him above Lamar just due to the fact that the offense he's in is a lot better. And I think the matchup is about the same. I mean, even though the Falcons are a little bit better on defense than the Titans, they still have their deficiencies. Sean Payton will know how to attack that defense easily. And I expect him to get Taysom Hill involved in a lot of ways, not just throwing the football. He's going to get him involved rushing. So I think there's a pretty good chance Taysom Hill will get a rushing touchdown, which is important. And heck, maybe even a little Philly special receiving touchdown. You never know. Number 7, Kirk Cousins. Pretty safe pick this week with Cousins. I mean, versus Dallas. I think the running game is going to be more involved, which could be the only problem with him. But aside from that, I mean, he's going to be not launching the ball like it's. He'll launch the ball to Jefferson. He'll launch the ball to Thielen. I mean, you could do what you want on the Dallas defense. I mean, even though the Steelers, look, I mean, I'm telling you guys, don't let the Steelers game fool you. Okay, don't let the Steelers game fool you with the Cowboys. Number 6, Deshaun Watson. Watson, again, he'd be in the top 3, but, Patriots defense, put a little bit of respect on them. Played a really good game last week. They looked horrible the week before, so we don't know what we're going to get with the Patriots defense. They're a little bit slower than before. I still think they're really banged up as well. So Deshaun Watson, though, is a top 10 quarterback every week. He's really good. Number 5, Russell Wilson. He already played. Russell was good, so I think that was a good spot for him. Number 4, I'm going to go Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes is the obvious play this week, guys. He's going to tear the Raiders up. Number 3, I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. Herbert versus the Jets is like cake. I mean, I don't see a way that he doesn't score at least, 3-4 touchdowns on them. I mean, the only thing that, again, some of these quarterbacks, the only thing that's really stopping them from being statistically great is maybe some sort of run D, some sort of, I don't know, just basically the running back getting goal line touches and that getting in the way. I don't think it will, though. Number 2, Big Ben versus Jacksonville. I mean, with those receivers, that's a great matchup. And then already has said Kyler Murray at number 1. So let's go over to running back top 10 now. Number 10, I'm going to put Antonio Gibson. Gibson is just, I mean, every week he's a starter. Every week. I mean, you have to start this guy. The volume he gets is outstanding. He gets 20 touches a game guaranteed. He's getting red zone touches multiple times, which is awesome. I mean, he's almost a touchdown a game guy, and that's a starter every single week. I don't care. Number 9, I'm going to go James Conner. I mean, James Conner, he looked good when he first came back, but he's starting to slow back down to what he really is, which is a good back, but not a great one. He doesn't have that same burst as some of the other running backs. And I don't think he's that fast, if I got to be honest with you. And I know speed isn't everything. We already explained that, but breakaway speed means something, and he just doesn't burst, mainly his burst. I mean, he's not explosive whatsoever, and I think the Steelers need that to take their offense to that elite level where it once was when they had Le'Veon Bell. He brought some explosion when he was healthy. So James Conner, I think he's going to be in for a little bit of trouble, but it's still versus Jacksonville. And I mean trouble is in the long term, but versus Jacksonville, I mean, come on, that's cake. Number 8, I actually put Carlos Hyde, and Carlos Hyde had 15 points, so that was actually worth putting him up in the top 10. Number 7, Aaron Jones. Again, Aaron Jones would be in the top 5, but the Colts are really good on defense, and you gotta temper your expectations when it comes to stuff like that. But Aaron Jones should still get involved a lot. Number 6, I'm going to put Miles Sanders. I mean, if there's only one thing consistent with the Phillies' offense, it's Miles Sanders. The only thing that's stopping him from being great is the fact that the O-line isn't pretty bland, but they don't. Doug Peterson doesn't like calling runs. I mean, that's just what it is. He literally, all he does is call pass. Every third down's a pass. Every second down's a pass. And I don't know why he's doing that. Like, his quarterback's any good. I mean, Miles Sanders is seriously, like, he is your number 1 weapon on that offense. They need to get him involved more, especially if they want to win this week. Number 5, I'm going to go Josh Jacobs. I mean, versus KC, that's a horrible run D. Jacobs should have a field day. This should be an easy game for him. Number 4, I'm going to go Alvin Kamara versus the Falcons. He always has good games versus them, and he will this week with a ton of volume. Number 3, I'm going to go Mike Davis. I like Mike Davis that much. I am confident Mike Davis will have at least 10 points. All right, he is going to run. They're going to run the rock with Mike Davis, pound him down the Lions' throat, and get to the next level. He's going to just ground and pound with this Lions. Ton of volume for Davis. I love him this week. And then number 2, Derrick Henry. Number 1, Dalvin Cook. I mean, we don't really need to explain that. Derrick Henry, I worry a little bit about just because that team's trending in the wrong direction. But hey, it could turn around. So let's go to receivers. Number 10, I'm going to put Juju. Yeah, guys, I'm going to put Juju. And the reason is because Jacksonville's so bad that I think he's even worse starting versus Jacksonville. I mean, I think this is this is a similar game to the Steelers last week. Everybody will get involved in offense. Everybody will get involved in defense, and it should all work out for them. Number 9, I'm going to go Calvin Ridley versus New Orleans. He's healthy. Again, Julio's back. So to have him as that second threat, I mean, remember, guys, Ridley was a number 1 receiver in fantasy weeks 1 through 4, where he was 20. So there's a very good chance he can go right back to that, especially with Matty Ice playing well. Number 8, Terry McLaurin. McLaurin's a machine, man. He's reliable, he's consistent, and he's the guy you want as your number 1 receiver. And the fact that he's doing this without a quarterback is just outstanding. And, Cincinnati doesn't have anybody to cover him, so I expect it to continue for him. Number 7, Deontay Johnson. I mean, Deontay is an outstanding player. I mean, we've already said this before. I mean, I think he's the best of those 3 receivers. Maybe Claypool emerges down the road in later years, but I think right now Deontay's easily the best receiver on that team. And, best receiver means you're going to have a good game versus a bad team. So I'll put Deontay number 7. Number 6, he's back. He's healthy. Kenny Golladay. So, I mean, Kenny Galladay's good enough to where you could start him every single game as long as he's healthy. It doesn't matter the opponent either, because he's going to get the targets with Stafford. Number 5, Keenan Allen versus the Jets. I mean, that is a cake matchup. Keenan Allen should definitely score versus that team. Number 4, Devontae Adams versus the Colts. I mean, Adams would be in number 2, number 1, but believe me, they're going to focus on Devontae a lot, and they're not going to let him get going. Number 3, Julio. Julio, I mean, every week Julio is a start, regardless of the opponent. He's even better than Golladay. And now that he's really healthy, and he actually wants to get something going for the Falcons, you could tell with the way they've been playing recently. So he's hot. I don't expect it to slow down, even though they're going to try to scheme it all up, but they don't have nobody to cover him. Kayvon Izami will tell you that. Number 2, DeAndre Hopkins. We already talked about him. He did all right. Not his fault, though. And then we're going to go Tyreek Hill at number 1, because he is lightning. Let's go tight ends, top 10. Guys, keep an eye out for Zach Ertz. I'm telling you, keep an eye out. He's probably not going to return this week, but later, keep an eye out, because right now I'm going to go Dallas Goedert at number 10. And that's because the Browns are horrible at tight ends. They can't cover anybody tight ends. Dalton Schultz was scoring on them, for crying out loud. So I'm pretty confident the Dallas Goedert will get his targets this week. Number 9, I'm going to go Eric Ebron. Just because Jacksonville's so bad, I think Ebron's worthy of a top 10 spot. Maybe he gets a touchdown this week. He's not reliable, but worth a top 10 spot. Number 8, I'm going to go Hayden Hurst. Hurst has been a little bit better. He's getting a little bit more consistent. He's getting to 50 yards a game or a touchdown, similar to Hawkinson, so he could be trending on that same path. We'll see. I think it will continue, though. Number 7, Rob Gronkowski. Gronk is the beast. He is coming back, and he's looking good. The Rams let George Kittle have a field day on him. I expect the same thing to happen with Gronk, even though Gronk isn't as dynamic as George Kittle. He's going to have, I think there's a good chance he'll score as well. Keep an eye out, though, because he did have some injury pains throughout the week, so we'll see going into the game, but he should be active and good to go. Number 6, I'm going to go Logan Thomas from the Redskins. Thomas, not the best player, but I'm telling you right now, the volume, guys, he's going to get the volume. Alex Smith is a one-leg quarterback. He's going to throw it to him underneath every single time. Every single time. It's either going to be him or Gibson or McKissick. I'm telling you right now, because he can't take sacks with that leg. Alex Smith cannot take sacks. He's got to get the ball out ASAP, and he knows it when he plays. He knows it. Which is why it's going to. That's why they weren't doing crap in the first 3 quarters versus the Lions, because they got to get the ball out so damn fast. 3rd and long, they're screwed. But I think Logan Thomas will benefit off that. Number 5, I'm going to go Hunter Henry. Henry, hasn't been all that, but this is a good week for him to bounce back. This is the Jets. Come on. Step up your game, bro. Number 4, Mark Andrews. Again, another one that just hasn't looked the same, man. He was dominant last year, but just hasn't really carried over to this year. And, this will be a good bounce-back opportunity for him. Number 3, Hawkinson. You guys know me. I love Hawkinson. Every week starter. I think it'll continue this week versus Carolina. Number 2, Darren Waller versus Chiefs. Waller, the baller, man. Touchdown reliable. Hopefully he gets a score this time. But the targets are going to be there regardless. And then number 1, obviously, Travis Kelce. So that's it, guys. I guess defense, we already talked about it. Or did we? I already talked about Miami's defense. If they're out there somehow, some way, you pick them up immediately. Minnesota defense, I'll take a shot on them as well versus Andy Dalton because I don't know what I'm going to get from him. And then I'll take a shot on Washington's defense, and the only reason why is because their D-line is a complete mismatch for Cincinnati's O-line. There's 2 things I'll always bet against in football: bad O-lines and bad quarterbacks. And that's the only reason I'm taking those 2 defenses. Minnesota, because I don't think Andy Dalton is that good, and Washington, because I don't think the Bengals' O-line is good. So that's the show, guys. Appreciate you listening, man. Make sure you follow all the media pages, GSMC_football, GSMC_FF football. That's my page, Kayvani Zombies page. I'm gonna be on this show just shortly to do some more fantasy talk. Hopefully I get around to it, man, and get some clips out for you guys so you can see what we've been talking about and what we've been cooking up. But if you haven't already, make sure you're all subscribed, man. I'm out of here. You guys know where to find me. I'll catch you guys on next Tuesday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.